Hello, and welcome to Orgullo Hispano. This is the Hispanic Leaders Network first podcast that is going to be bilingual, and it is the first one of its kind here in Central Texas. I am your host, Hector Sabido, and I am so humbled and thrilled that HLN has asked me to be a part of this project. Throughout the podcast, you will hear from many community leaders, many artists, many up-and-coming Hispanics that are doing great things in the areas of sector they work with, whether it be government, business, arts, and more. The first podcast I'm excited to announce, it is with the Hispanic Leaders Network Board of Directors. They have been so busy these past few years really getting HLN off of the ground, and you have really seen the fruits of their labor. So we thought that it was a great time to introduce them to you, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month, which we are so thrilled about it. Throughout the month, you will hear from other Hispanics in our area that are going to bring you inspirational words, encouraging words, and just really the great things that they are doing in our community. First, let's start off with this HLN board. Our first guest, I'm excited because she, in essence, with the help of a few individuals, started HLN. So Mrs. Elaine Botello, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Elaine is also the chair of HLN. And so I am excited to talk to you about the organization and the mission and the work that it does. But to start off a little bit, tell me, for those that don't know, what is HLN? What is its mission? What does it do? Why does it exist?
Well, the Hispanic Leaders Network, as you know, it started about 4 years ago. And the whole purpose of forming this network was for people to have a place, a sense of belonging in our community, something that I personally had not seen as a Hispanic leader.
Yep.
I remember when we had our first meeting back at the Waco ISD conference room back in 2018, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
I had been doing my own job as an assistant superintendent at that time and always busy in the work.
Sure.
But when we had this first meeting, all of these leaders in one room, I don't think I had ever in my life seen so many Hispanic leaders in one room.
It was pretty awesome.
It was amazing. And I'm like, where have all these people been? It was so inspirational to me. And that was our great first meeting.
Sure.
And we knew that we had something good going on here and we needed to just keep the momentum going. But the Hispanic Leaders Network, it really is just a group of passionate leaders in our community who want to inspire other current and future leaders to make an impact in our community, to be able to give them the resources, inspire them, leadership development skills, just so they can advocate, number one, for themselves and for those to come. We really have built upon that. Since that meeting, I think it was about a year later, we got together quite a few people, actually, core group of people, established some core values, and then we came up with our vision statement, which is to be an inspiration to current and future leaders to make an impact in the greater Waco community.
I have been fortunate to see HLN, maybe not as long as you, but, be a part of it semi-beginning. And I remember it was started off as quarterly lunches. I've been a part of HLN, maybe not as long as you have, but pretty close to the beginning. And I remember at that time, it was just quarterly lunches, correct? And then a year later, like you talked about, there was that strategic planning session where HLN and a group of leaders came up with a vision statement and a mission statement and core values. To now, there are monthly lunches taking place all over the city. There are mentorship programs that are with the local high schools and Baylor University. There are just so much coming from HLN. What do you attribute that to?
I attribute that to just people who are passionate about helping others.
Yes. I agree.
Helping others have that sense of belonging, really just showing people, especially our younger generation, who will one day hopefully be sitting in the seats that we're sitting in now, to know that if we can do this, so can they. I mean, Hector, when you think about, several Hispanic leaders in our community, where they are now, whether they are serving in a leadership role in their church or serving in a leadership role at their employment or in the community, we all kind of have similar stories where we might have had hard knocks along the way.
We had the scrapes and bruises.
We have had plenty and blood too, probably, but plenty of scrapes and bruises to show it. And it's not always as easy for Hispanics to overcome the challenges and get to a certain place where, you really should be proud of. And, for me personally, and I know a lot of my colleagues that I work with in the Hispanic Leaders Network group, they have that same passion. It's like, how can we build future leaders and help them realize that they do have a voice. Yes. They definitely deserve a place at the table. Yep. And they definitely should be included in important conversations in our community. It's just been so rewarding to see the growth of Hispanic Leaders Network. So much happening. You were mentioning, we came up with our core values and our vision, our mission, but also the strategic goals. We had a summer retreat back in June of 2022, and over 30 Hispanic leaders came to that summer retreat, and they shared their passion, and we all collaborated on what's important.
I love that.
The first item is language justice. Yes. That's a real thing in our community. Absolutely. We have a lot of members of our community who, cannot communicate in English. That's something that we all take for granted. We can go anywhere and we can communicate with anybody, but not everybody can do that. Right. And we want them to feel included.
I think, you're talking about language justice, and I've seen over the last several years, it become really a topic that has come to the forefront of some of the barriers that people are facing. And you're absolutely right. It is a real barrier that people are facing. And we do take for granted the fact that you and I can communicate in English, but there are some people here that don't have that privilege, they don't have that luxury. And so I think it's even more important that HLN is taking that on its back and saying, we want to make sure that there's language justice, that there's language equity for our community.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, just to be a part of something like that could be groundbreaking in our community is just so important to me. And I'm also learning better Spanish as a result of it too, because I'm not fully bilingual. I mean, I was brought up in the days where my parents felt like it would be to my benefit not to teach me. Well, I don't want to say not teach me Spanish, but they wanted to make sure that I was able to communicate in English because they felt like there would be more of an advantage for me. And they were doing that out of love.
Absolutely.
But, hindsight 2020, I wish they would have taught me Spanish, but I definitely get it. I definitely get it. And there's a lot of people that are in the same shoes. So for me, it's also a learning opportunity. I want to, better my Spanish speaking skills, and having this language justice also allows people like me to kind of let's immerse ourselves and learn a little bit of Spanish along the way too. But really the ultimate goal is to reach out to the community and let them know that they have a place at the table. And there's so many meetings and events that they could be a part of that they probably choose not to be just because of that language barrier. And then also some other strategic goals: leadership development. That's one of our priorities. Mentoring, as you mentioned earlier, mentoring, to the high school students, reaching out to the college students and getting them involved and letting them know that, we're here to support them. We're also here to give them the leadership skills that they need as well to, be great future leaders. And so it's just been very rewarding, just to be able to contribute. And let's not forget the inspirational speakers that we have that come to.
You've had some wonderful speakers.
We've had some wonderful speakers, and all of us could use a little inspiration every now and then, right?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Someone who's really going to hit home, and just sometimes you just need a little bit of that spark to keep you going.
A little push to say, hey, you can do this.
You can do this. You can do this. Or, I think one theme that we hear a lot is, failure is not a mistake. Mm-hmm. We all fail at some point in time. It's what you do with that failure that counts. Yep. And so just having these wonderful speakers come in and share their stories, how they got to where they are now, and some leadership skills that, they feel have been vital to their success, and just sharing that, with the group has just been amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, Elaine, thank you for really being a pioneer with HLN and making sure. I know that you have worked tirelessly. But one of the cool things about HLN, and I'm going to let you share a little bit about this, that HLN here recently got its own 501c3, so it's its own nonprofit organization. What do you think that means to HLN, and what do you see HLN doing in the future?
I feel that has just opened up really so many opportunities for the organization, just to be able to expand what we're doing now, especially the mentorship piece, the leadership development piece. I mean, I can envision us doing some great things. And, let's not forget, HLN is inclusive. Yes. It has been beautiful to see everyone come to the table and be a part of, what we're doing. You
even have board members that are not Hispanic, but they want to be a part of the cause.
They want to be a part of it. And a lot of our sponsors, our monthly luncheon sponsors, they are, all about what we're doing. And so I love the inclusiveness of the organization. It's so beautiful. Yep. So as far as the nonprofit piece, again, just being able to spread our wings and really engage in the community a little more than what we've been able to. We're in the baby stages, but it's fun. It's been fun so far. So many people just wanting to know what they can do to help support HLN entities, asking, how can we sponsor? Tell us, what we can do to get involved. It's just been so rewarding just to hear, those opportunities, that we can just really dive into.
Love it. Well, thank you, Elaine, once again. I am so appreciative to you and the work that the board is doing. And so I hope that as this podcast continues, that you guys will be able to see some of these leaders that she's talking about. We're going to be talking to leaders that are not only Hispanic leaders in the business, but in the nonprofit sector, in the art sector, even in political sectors. So it's just going to be a podcast where we can highlight great people doing great works in our community. So thank you, Elaine.
Well, and thank you, Hector, because I remember you were at that very first meeting when we were working on our core values, and we came up with a vision statement, and you were at the table too, and your contribution has been vital to the growth of the organization. So thank you for everything you've done as well.
And I will say it's near and dear to my heart.
Yes, it's mine as well.
Awesome.
And that's why we do what we do, is because of that passion, is for the heart of it.
You're exactly right. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hector.
Isabel, ahorita que estamos celebrando la mes de la hispanidad, ¿esto qué significa para usted y para su familia?
Pues para nosotros significa apoyar a los negocios aquí que son propietarios de la gente hispana. En especialidad nos encanta ir a comer, ir a los restaurantes. Siempre me preguntan, ¿cuál es tu favorito? Le digo, pues es que no tengo, todos están riquísimos. Sí, y pues también nos encanta cocinar con familia, siempre con mis hermanas o con mi suegra, siempre nos juntamos, hacemos tamales, tortillas, pozole, Sí, cuando llega mi papá de Oaxaca nos trae mole oaxaqueño, que el coloradito es el favorito mío. Y no, nos encanta siempre estar de familia, siempre platicando lo que hacíamos cuando estábamos creciendo, lo que hacían nuestros padres, nuestros familiares, y también cuando estamos juntos ya, nos encanta jugar lotería.
Así es.
Nos encanta jugar lotería.
Se divierte uno.
Nos divertimos, que la chalupa y buena, siempre gritamos.
Qué bueno.
Y también algo que también nos gusta a mí, bueno, a mi esposo y a mí en especial, es oír música. Sí. Nos encanta la música regional mexicana y más cumbias para bailar. Así y pues claro, nos encanta bailar.
Trabajando por una estación de radio me siento igual, yo también.
Okay. Sí, claro. Sí, nos encanta bailar, siempre nos ven bailando.
Qué bueno.
Sí.
Oiga, hablando de su carrera profesional, usted es una directora aquí en el edificio escolar, pero es una de las pequeñas números de hispanas que tenemos como directora.
Sí.
¿Eso qué significa para usted?
Pues para mí significa un honor poder representar a mi gente, como quien dice. O sea, no ha sido un paso fácil, ha sido muy difícil ascender hasta donde estoy yo, pero lo tomo muy serio. O sea, yo quiero que la gente vea y que los niños en especial vea que sí se puede, que estamos en el país de la oportunidad, que todo es posible. Cualquier sueño que tienen lo pueden obtener. Y algo que me gusta yo a mí reflexionar también es que estamos en el país de la oportunidad y todo es posible.
Sí, así es.
Me encanta, yo pienso que yo creciendo, nunca tuve una directora, maestros que se miraban como yo. Nunca. Y para mí eso era algo, les digo a todos cuando cuento mi historia, era como que si yo ir a China, o sea, era algo imposible de alcanzar, era una meta imposible para alcanzar, pero gracias a Dios alguien creyó en mí. Una de mis supervisoras, la doctora Yolanda López, que ya está retirada ella y vive en San Antonio, me dijo, Isabel, veo que eres muy inteligente, no has pensado ir a colegio. Le digo, pero eso no es para mí. Le digo, yo soy hija de migrantes, eso no es, o sea, yo no soy el molde de lo que la gente piensa que es para ir a la universidad. No, y ella me ayudó, dijo, tú sí puedes, tú lo que tú quieras, dijo, dream big, sueña grande, tú lo puedes hacer. Y gracias a ella que vio algo en mí, y es algo que a mí me gusta inculcarle a mis alumnos, a decirles que tú puedes hacer el presidente de los Estados Unidos, puedes hacer directora, director, doctor, abogado, lo que tú quieras, sueña grande, porque sí se puede.
O sea, alguien fue un ejemplo para usted, y ahora usted es un ejemplo para los otros niños que siguen después de usted.
Sí.
Padre. Pues le queremos dar muchas gracias por todo lo que hace en la escuela, en la comunidad, y estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Así que gracias.
Sí, gracias. Muchas gracias.
Our next guest is Josh Caballero with Grassroots Community, and they do some wonderful, phenomenal work in our community. So, Josh, thank you for being here today.
Sure.
Quick question for you. So, as you work in our community, what do you think are the biggest assets or the biggest things that the Hispanics give to our community here locally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So at Grassroots, we always want to think about what are the strengths that community members bring to the table. And we work a lot with Hispanic community leaders. And the truth is we have lots to bring, right, to the table.
Exactly.
We have vibrancy and life. There's a sense of community that is really important for our Waco community, if you think about that. And to be quite honest, it's the same strengths that every other person brings too, right? We are hardworking, we are innovative and creative. We have such an entrepreneur spirit I've seen in the Hispanic community here in Waco.
I love to hear that, man. If you had your crystal ball and you look 5-10 years from now, how do you think Hispanics will fit into this community specifically?
Well, I think if you take a look at what's happening right now, the Hispanic community is one of the fastest growing across the country, but that's also true here in Waco.
Exactly.
And if you look at small businesses that are popping up, it's largely Hispanics who are opening up small businesses, who are moving into that entrepreneur section. So if I think of kind of 10 years from now, Waco, what is Waco looking like? I think what we will see are a lot more Hispanics in leadership.
Awesome.
I think that is kind of the future of our community here. HLN is creating opportunities and spaces for Hispanics to get more plugged in. And so absolutely, I think we're going to see a lot more Hispanic leadership in Waco down the road.
I love to hear that, Josh. And honestly, I'm a fan of the work that you do in our community. So thank you. And thank you for being here today.
Sure, absolutely.
Ahora tenemos la famosa doctora Iliana Neumann, que hace buen trabajo, es doctora, pero también le da a la comunidad con su tiempo, con el tiempo de su familia, y estamos bien agradecidas por tenerla aquí hoy. Así gracias, doctora Neumann, por estar con nosotros hoy.
Es todo un gusto para mí. Muchas gracias.
Oiga, una pregunta a usted. Sé que usted, como dije, está apasionada por muchas cosas en la comunidad y usted hace demasiado. No sé cuándo duerme usted, pero ¿por qué usted eligió participar en la organización HLN y eso qué significa para usted?
Bueno, entonces yo me regresé, yo nací aquí en Texas, en McAllen, pero yo vivía mucho tiempo afuera en todas partes del país. Regresé aquí a Texas hace como 6 años porque quería que mis niños chiquitos estuvieran más cercanos a su comunidad, a su herencia hispana. Al llegar estuve muy sorprendida. Dije, ¿dónde están los latinos? No los encuentro. Porque usualmente nosotros tenemos una parte muy activa en las comunidades que nosotros vivimos. Participamos a todos niveles, traemos mucho a nuestras comunidades y aquí yo dije, ¿dónde estamos?
Estamos escondidos todos,
Estamos escondidos. Y recibí la invitación para HLN y entré al cuarto y fue, wow, aquí es donde están. Y se sintió como llegar a casa.
Qué bueno.
Me sentí cómoda, dije, aquí está mi gente y están haciendo lo que yo pensé, trabajando en universidades, teniendo negocios, en salud, en todo tipo de direcciones de la comunidad. Nosotros estamos presentes. Y dije, esto tiene que seguir. Y ese mismo día le mandé una nota a Elaine, que en ese tiempo estaba organizándolos, y le dije, wow, eso fue fabuloso, por favor, vuelve a invitarme. Y lo hemos hecho ya por varios años.
Ya 4 años, ¿no?
4 años ya. Para mí significa exagerado. Uno, porque otra vez yo quise traer mis hijos aquí para estar cerquitas a su cultura y quiero que ellos experimenten todo lo bello que es ser latino. Yo creciendo aquí en este país, la hija de un inmigrante, mi mamá era de San Luis Potosí, hay veces nuestra herencia se siente como una barrera.
Claro.
Sentimos que mucha gente nos hace de menos solamente porque nomás miran nuestro exterior. Y a este punto en mi vida yo he reconocido que esas es una historia de afuera de lo de nosotros, porque la historia de nosotros es una historia de fuerza, de resiliencia, de contribuciones a esta comunidad, a los Estados Unidos, al mundo. Tenemos tanto que dar y tanto que nuestros ancestros nos ha dado en términos de fuerza, de amor al prójimo, de generosidad. Absolutamente, absolutamente. Y para mí esta organización es tan importante porque puedo seguir ayudándonos a unirnos, a crecernos, a encontrar nuestra voz para ser una mejor comunidad para nosotros, una mejor comunidad futuro para mis hijos, y porque en eso también vamos a contribuir mucho mejor a la ciudad en grande.
Así es. Una persona que está pensando de reunirse con HLN, ¿usted qué diría que son las ventajas para ser parte de este grupo de la organización? ¿Usted qué diría qué puertas abre?
Para mí son muchas. Otra vez, hay mucha fuerza en el número. Escuché una frase, alguien más dijo, los palitos no se quebran cuando están en montoncito, ¿verdad? Entonces hay fuerza en estar juntos, en recordarnos las cosas que todos traemos a la mesa. También una de las cosas que nos da más fuerza en los tiempos difíciles es reconocer lo que está dentro de nuestro corazón, y esta organización nos trae eso al frente. ¿Qué son las cosas bellas? El orgullo y la felicidad, el estar contento en la piel de uno mismo. Esta organización me trae a mí todo eso. Pero para mí, tú sabes, parte de nuestro nombre es líder, ¿verdad? Somos los líderes hispanos. Y para mí ser líder significa el servicio.
Así es.
Y ahorita estamos haciendo mucho, especialmente en mi comité, que es el de Enganche a la Cultura, en en enganchar el resto de la comunidad, encontrar maneras de dar servicio, porque es en el dar, en la generosidad, donde nosotros crecemos y nos hacemos mejor.
Y lo que me gusta también cuando he participado como en los lunches o actividades que pone HLN, cada vez es como que vemos nuevas personas y me encanta que la gente está tomando de su tiempo, que me imagino que están ocupados y llegando a estos eventos, ¿no?
Absolutamente, y es por la energía, ¿verdad? Sí. La energía de inclusividad, de estás bienvenido, queremos que vengas con nosotros, ¿verdad? Y eso es mucho parte de nosotros.
Claro.
Y sí, cada vez que venimos crece más y más y pues es tan emocionante ser parte de este grupo.
Bien. Pues doctora, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. De veras, se lo agradecemos todo lo que usted hace personalmente, no solo en su trabajo, pero también en la comunidad. Y en sí, usted, si tenemos que escoger un líder aquí en la comunidad, su foto está ahí. Así que muchas gracias por todo.
Gracias a ti, Héctor.
So our next guest is the man, the myth, the legend, the new principal of University High School, my alma mater. Go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
Mr. Alonzo McAdoo. Alonzo, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a great opportunity.
Hey, so I learned that you are involved in HLN, which, by the way, I love it, man. Yeah. What motivated you? What inspired you to want to be involved with HLN?
Well, for me, it was just hearing that it was an opportunity to really touch the students that I work with at my campus.
Okay.
Because when the idea first came to me, it was talking about providing our students an opportunity to see what people around can not only provide mentorship, but show them that there's different pathways available to them.
Okay.
And so when I saw that connection, I was like, who's doing this work?
Sure.
And then that's when HLN came in, and I said, well, how do I get to be a part of something so fabulous, so inspirational? Because as an educator, you want to inspire your students to do great things,
sure.
But it's nothing more inspirational than having that at-home, in-person style connection, and I want to be a part of that.
Well, and I think, you being the principal of what I would consider the largest Hispanic school in our community, even more important. And so what does that mean to you for you yourself being the principal? Because I know university is your alma mater as well.
Yeah, it's home.
So there you go, it's home. So what does that mean to you being principal of UHS?
Well, when you have such a large Hispanic demographic, as a principal, I can't be blind to that.
Correct.
And one of the things that I see is that I need to make sure I understand the culture. I need to make sure that I'm putting things in place to not only represent the culture, but to enhance it. Mm-hmm. And so as a principal, you want all your students to succeed and thrive, but you also have to know who your audience is. And being a part of the Hispanic Leadership Network is going to help enhance the environment for our students there. Sure. It can only make what we have grow. Yeah. And I think when I look at our demographics again, I really and genuinely just want our students to have that representation, because it needs to be something more than just what they see on social media or what they see outside.
Yes.
I want our students to know right here in your backyard.
There you go.
Here we are.
And I think it's important that, I've even heard that there's going to be a mentorship program started by HLN at UHS. And how important that is, like you said, that they have positive role models that they can look up to, that look like them, speak the language that they do. Have a lot of them have, are children of immigrant parents like many of us are, and that they know that they can be just as successful in life as anybody else.
Yes,
would you agree?
I would agree, because seeing is believing a lot of times.
Yes.
You often hear these words being shared, or they see something out of a book, but it reminds me of when I was teaching history. One of our social studies lessons was wrapped around the Battle of the Alamo.
Right.
And it didn't hit my kiddos until I never forget one student in class, she goes, wait a minute, this happened for real? And it's like, yeah, like here's the map I'm showing you. But it motivated them to have their family go down and actually view it and walk it. And we took a trip to go see it. And it was like, and it became real. Mm-hmm. And so I think in these terms, when you can actually see people in our community that are impacting, making change and doing things that may not be in your circle, it's eye-opening.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Alonzo, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today, but most importantly, thank you for, I know you have a new position this year, but honestly, you've been doing the work for years, sir. And so respect to you, and thank you for all that you do for our community. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now we have Dr. Liz Palacios joining us, which this is an honor for me because I've known Dr. Palacios for many years. And Dr. Palacios, it is truly an honor to be here chatting with you today. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm delighted. And it's an honor for me to see, former students growing up and being such a presence in this world and this community. And so it's definitely a presence for me. Yeah.
You. Well, I don't know if many people know this. But you joined Baylor as one of the first Latinas on campus. Tell us what that experience was like, please, if you don't mind.
Without sounding ancient, really, I was a little freshman from San Antonio. Uh-huh. Went to a high school of 99% Mexicanos. Mm-hmm. So my world was brown, and so coming to Baylor was a culture shock.
Sure.
But one of the very first people I have to give my utmost thanks to, it was Ruben Santos.
Okay.
And Ruben was already a community member.
Yes, ma'am, he was.
But he was already an icon at Baylor. Mm-hmm. He was the director of the union at Baylor, and the very first Latino that I saw. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, I felt like, should I be here? And he was the very first one who said, yes, you are supposed to be here. You can do it, and you have a place here. So, boy, that was big for me.
Sure. Well, I think our stories are very similar because I came from a high school that was predominantly Hispanic, Latino. And so entering Baylor was a huge culture shock for me. And even finding people that looked like me or maybe spoke the language that I did were very few, far in between. Yeah. And so I kind of share your story with that, so I completely understand. Yes. And I have to give kudos to Baylor. They've made major strides, in becoming more diverse. Would you say?
Yes, I would. When I got there, it was about 1% minority, not even Latinos, minority.
Sure.
I think about the time you were there, it was much higher. We're about 36% now. It was not wonderful. Anywhere near that. But yes, it's so crucial to see others that look like you there, whether they're students or whether they're faculty or staff.
Sure. Now you've made your career in higher ed.
Yes.
We spoke about your journey at Baylor University, but you recently retired.
Yes.
So congratulations, first and foremost, well deserved.
Thank you. 40 years in higher education.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Yes. My very first job was opening the mail and answering phones with my little business degree. But gosh, yes, I got through Baylor. And it was funny because a lot of the roles and titles I had was because, number one, they expanded my role. So obviously I got to grow my receptionist role. But by the end of the 10 years at the graduate school, I was the assistant to the dean, and I had already written a $96,000 grant for minority recruitment. So they allowed me to grow. And I don't know if they just got tired of me asking, but they just said, Liz, do it. Liz, just go do it.
And you showed them you could do it.
And yeah, so I was able to do that. And other places like, I was one of the first Latina faculty members in the School of Education.
I remember.
And when I was there for my 11 years, I was the only Latina. So they weren't real happy when their only one left and went to administration. But, I tell some people it wasn't hard to be the first one because there weren't any other Latinas. But it was hard because I did have to break ground. I had to educate my peers. How do you treat a Latina? Or, if I have my PhD, if you're going to call others Dr. So-and-so, you call me Dr. So-and-so. So there was a lot of educating my colleagues and my peers. Yeah. But, people have their heart in the right place.
Right.
So it was fertile ground for me to be able to push and just say, hey, let's try this and let's do that.
And I think that's one of the awesome things that I think you could say and people can say about you is that in many ways you were a pioneer when it wasn't popular.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you.
Yeah. I didn't get to have a lot of, friends that I could just to be able to talk to about, hey, how do I handle this and how do I handle that? So that's why I'm so excited when I get to talk to younger leaders coming up, and it's like, oh, let me give you the map. Don't be out there trying to navigate. Let me give it to you. So yeah.
But so even your life experiences have been a blessing to people like me, because we've had those that have gone before us, and they've paved the way for us, and so we are grateful for that. So thank you. One more question: if now that you are entering what I would consider the best time of your life with retirement, what do you want your students to remember you by?
I want them to remember that. Number one, I really loved working with them and being around them and being part of their journey. That I hope that they've learned to be authentic, to bring who you are with you, your language, your culture, the colors you wear, the way, just those things that are so core to their value and traditions, not to put them aside to fit in, not to put them aside so that things would be easier, because things are harder when you bring your authentic self. But I really talk a lot about authentic leadership wherever you are. So I hope my students found that validity and that encouragement and that just affirmation of be you. There is only one. Bring it. Bring it to the table. Bring it to discussions that are hard. Bring it to opportunities to make things better for those around us. So don't put it aside when people say, I'm uncomfortable. That's
okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. This is who I am.
You're going to learn who I am. Yes, you're going to know who I am and what I'm about. So,
well, Dr. Palacios, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. But most importantly, thank you for, once again, being a pioneer, not only for Latinas, but Latinos also. And so
thank you.
It is truly an honor to know you. And we wish you nothing but the best in your retirement.
Thank you. I am looking forward to my new chapter.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Our next guest is Catalia Vazquez, whom I have gotten to know over the last 2 years, I would say. And Catelia, it really has been a joy to see you working in the community, being involved in the community. And so I know, just in working with you, that you have been very intentional about some of the organizations that you get involved with. And one of the ones which are near and dear to my heart is Inspiración. Tell us a little bit about the organization and what it does, especially for the Hispanic community.
Yes, for sure. Inspiración is an early childhood education program. We target at-risk Latinos and the families of at-risk Latinos. We provide services for children ages 0 to 4, and historically they're mothers, but we also have dads in the program.
Which is too awesome. I love that.
Yes, actually this year we have a set of parents who come together.
Oh my goodness,
so the dad has really prioritized coming with the mom to the parenting class. So this is our first year with like the set of parents together, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So we offer classes to the children for 2.5 hours. Once a week. We have 2 cohorts each day, Monday through Thursday. And then also while the kids are getting instruction, then the parents are right next door getting a parenting class where they're learning how to support the child's learning at the home.
Wonderful.
And then also support social emotional health.
Sure.
And then also our parents have the option to sign up for home visits with the Parents as Teachers certified parent educator twice a month, to make sure that their child is reaching developmental milestones.
But and I know, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the main goals of Inspiración is really to get the children kindergarten ready.
Correct.
And why is that so important?
Well, it's important because we want our kids to go to school and succeed in school. When a kid is kindergarten ready, we hope that puts them on the trajectory to be reading on grade level by 3rd grade, which is a key indicator to a student's success for years after. And one of the things that we do is really start to instill a routine so that the school environment isn't so overwhelming when a kid is entering school.
And the classes are predominantly in Spanish.
Yes, our classes are held in Spanish.
So really Inspiración is does the work that really no one else in our community does, correct?
You're correct.
And which is so vital, because I think sometimes it's already hard, and you're going to speak to this in a little bit, but it's already hard finding quality childcare for newborns and mommies.
Correct. And dads.
And dads. And that's in English. So when it's in Spanish,
Yes.
the numbers even multiply that much more, correct?
Yes. It's very hard to find a Spanish early childhood program in general, even more so locally. And so I do really pride myself that this program does provide Spanish instruction. Parenting classes are in Spanish. The home visits are done in Spanish. But that's not to say that we exclude somebody who doesn't speak Spanish. We do have families who, they know some Spanish, but they're predominantly English. And so we have accommodated to the point where we've even had those parents come back and say, you know, my Spanish has improved as a result. You know, my child's obviously picking up more Spanish, and I can speak Spanish with more confidence now just from attending these parenting classes.
Now let's talk about you a little bit, okay? Because you're a new mom to a beautiful baby girl, by the way.
Thank you.
You work full time for
Yes.
Transformation Waco.
I do.
You are heavily involved in the community.
Yes.
You're married, of
I
course.
am married.
And then you have, like, you know, your family, your siblings, parents, etc. How do you balance it all?
My husband would say that I don't. I don't balance it all. And like in full disclosure, and I feel like it's important to say this, especially considering our culture and our community. I recently started therapy because I realized like I have a lot on my plate. And if I'm not taking care of myself, then I can't take care of others. And that's been a great investment in myself. I'm already like really appreciative of myself for doing that. And I'm trying to be very open about discussing it with people because I don't want it to be a stigma.
Right. And in our culture, a lot of times it is a stigma, right? Because
de eso no hablamos. De eso no
hablamos. Like we grew up with the thought of your dirty laundry is not aired, or everything that happens in the house se queda en la casa. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so I do try to balance it all. I really just try to do what I can in the hours that I have, knowing that I don't have that much free time. I try to be very intentional with like the boundaries I set with work, with my community work. I'm very lucky to have the support that I have from my husband. You know, he stays at home full time with Elena, and that's a huge help. He's a rock star dad with her, and so I really couldn't do a lot of what I do if I didn't have him like cheering me on. Right. And we're also really lucky and blessed to be here, and our families are here. So I can call my mom, call my suegra, hey, I have a meeting.
Can you help out, please?
Do you want baby? And of course they always want baby. They always want baby. Yeah, so that's a huge help. I have my sisters and my brother, and I have my cuñado. So it's just nice to know like I have a really great support system, and I don't take that for granted.
Well, Catelia, I know you do a lot of great work in our community. So thank you. Because you are real, you're genuine, you're down to earth, and then you're fun.
Thank you. I try to be.
You are. So we really do appreciate for everything that you do for our community here. So
thank you. I'm happy to do it. I love Waco. Being from Waco, I've reaped a lot of benefits from community resources, and it's a priority to me to give back and continue to build on those resources for others.
Well, we look forward to what you're going to accomplish in the near future.
Thank you.
Our next guest is who I would consider the better part of the Sabido household, and so it is really an honor to interview my wife, as she is part of the Hispanic Leaders Network board. And so, Ilda, as you know, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month right now, and there's a lot of events going on, not only here locally, but in all of Latin America, really. What does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you?
It means a celebration of our people, locally, both locally and nationally and historically. It's just a celebration of all that we are and all that we've done and all the more that we can do. It's also a time to inspire others in the community to step up and do their own thing as well.
Now, I know, both of us being children of immigrant parents, we had to grow up in what I would consider a biculture, with the Mexican tradition, but also in America. How do you think you have balanced both of them out?
I've got experience. Let's see, I'm 38, will be 39 next month. And it was part of my day-to-day thing.
Sure.
So I during the day speak English and then go home and speak Spanish. So it's a part of who I am.
To this day, right?
To this day. So it's so embedded in who I am that I don't know any different.
Awesome.
And I'm proud of both. I wouldn't be who I am today. It shaped me.
Yep.
Yes.
Now, I know earlier I mentioned that you are on the board of directors for HLN, the Hispanic Leaders Network. What are some of the goals that you have for the organization?
Currently, I'm chair of the HLN Mentorship Committee. And so my focus right now really is very much so in mentorship and making sure that we not only educate, teach, give the opportunity to people to become those leaders. A lot of times we look at someone else and think, oh, how can I get to their point? How can I get there? Right. And it's really as simple as an opportunity.
There you go.
And someone giving you that opportunity to, hey, will you take minutes today? Or whatever avenue that is. Or maybe help with the buffet line. There's no big or small. Everything has an opportunity to teach you something.
And everything matters.
Everything matters. One can't run without the other.
Right.
That's how, we're the arms and feet. Or I don't think I said that right, but
it's okay.
But
the hands and feet.
The hands and feet. It's all. We're all a body, and we're stronger together as a whole.
Awesome.
But with the mentorship program, also not only to focus on those who are younger than us, but also not forget those who are older than us. You can become a leader at any time.
There you go.
You're never too young, you're never too old. There's always an opportunity. And so my passion right now is to make sure that we reach those and give those opportunities to everyone so that they can become. There's a lot of potential in the community that hasn't even been tapped into. And I don't want anybody to feel forgotten.
That's wonderful. Well, one of the things that I appreciate about what you're saying is because I know what you're saying is true. I know your heart for people and I know your heart for young people. And so it really is an honor to see you do the work in the community like you do. And so thank you. Thank you for what you do. I know you're setting a great example for our children. But I believe in my heart that you're also setting a great example for those students, those children that maybe don't have that home support that they need, but to know that they are valued and that they are appreciated and that they're seen and heard.
Absolutely.
I think it's just as important. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mi siguiente invitada es la famosa Anjali Looper. Anjali es una abogada de inmigración aquí en Waco y en el condado de McLennan. Pero también conocí a Anjali cuando ella hace bastante trabajo en la comunidad también, que es bien importante. Pero ella todos los días trabaja ayudando a inmigrantes. Y quiero que ella nos diga, Anjali, si nos dices un poco ¿qué te movió para ser abogada de inmigración? ¿Qué pasó en tu vida que quisiste hacer esa carrera?
Sí, pues gracias por invitarme aquí, Hector. Sí, pues fui a estudiar leyes un poco tarde en mi vida.
Okay.
En la escuela de leyes ellos me llaman mamá porque estaba un poco más viejo que los otros
y todavía
estudiantes.
Está muy joven, ¿te imaginas?
Se parece, quizá. No, pero sí, estaba criada aquí en Waco. Okay. Mi mamá pues era pastora bilingüe.
Okay.
Entonces, mucho de mi juventud estaba con ella asistiendo a citas con personas en su casa, pero migrantes. Y ella hablando español con ellos y ellos platicando de su vida, de su experiencia como inmigrantes. Mi mamá es de Uruguay. Ella no es inmigrante porque nació como ciudadana, pero ella crió en Uruguay. Okay. Entonces, mi juventud era como una mezcla de culturas. Pero en nuestra iglesia, que es bilingüe, aquí una iglesia menonita bilingüe, tenemos migrantes, también personas que han creado aquí y esas historias eran parte de mi vida, de mi familia, de mis amistades. Entonces, siempre eso era en mi corazón. Quizás no en forma de trabajo, pero detrás de años me di cuenta que pudiera ayudar mucho en esta manera, porque no había nadie practicando leyes de migrantes de bajos recursos aquí en Waco. Claro. Entonces, mi iglesia en 2010 me animó a ir a estudiar leyes para hacer eso en Waco, y ahora estoy haciendo mi trabajo de sueño, básicamente.
Es importante porque como yo soy hijo de migrantes, así que cuando mis papás llegaron aquí a los Estados Unidos no había la ayuda que hay disponible ahorita. Así que ellos tuvieron, y me imagino como muchos padres inmigrantes tuvieron una época difícil, nomás estar aquí, no sabiendo el idioma, no sabiendo a dónde ir por ayuda, haciendo legales o ciudadanos sin una guía. Así que me da tanto gusto que hay personas como tú, abogados como tú, que están ayudando a la gente aquí, porque en sí hace falta ese trabajo. Pero quiero saber tu pasión. ¿Por qué elegiste sé que tu pasión es ayudar a los inmigrantes? ¿Qué hace que tu pasión sea tan real?
Sí, pues en realidad mi pasión es, voy a ser un poco religiosa aquí. Okay. Mi pasión es servir a Dios. Perfecto. Y creo que Dios dice que debemos dar bienvenidos a los inmigrantes. Y eso es una manera de hacer eso. No es la única manera de dar bienvenidos a inmigrantes, pero es una manera.
Y una manera importante.
Sí. Y me gusta resolver problemas, y eso es una manera que yo puedo resolver problemas de personas, pero también puedo conocerles. Y en casos de migración, muchas veces se están pendientes por años. Entonces, estoy parte de una familia por años ayudándoles en su caso. Y en ese tiempo puedo formar una relación muy buena con la familia. Voy a quinceañeras, otros festivales, cosas que tienen en su familia, y eso lo amo. Que puedo hacer eso. Y mi familia también tiene relaciones con familias de mis clientes, entonces es muy lindo.
Pues Anjali, te damos las gracias de veras, no solo por estar aquí hoy en la tarde con nosotros, pero también por todo lo que has hecho y vas a seguir haciendo. Espero, ya sé que hay muchas familias que han cambiado por la ayuda que tú les has dado, y en sí sé que Dios te va a bendecir a ti por el trabajo que estás haciendo. Así que muchas gracias a usted.
Muchas gracias, Hector.
Now I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, Mr. Adrian Fajardo. Adrian is a teacher, works in Waco ISD as well with South Waco Elementary, and it's just a great community advocate. So Adrian, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, so we are kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month, and I've noticed that over the years, there's been a lot of names to describe whether it be Hispanics, Latinos, Chicano. I think the most recent term is Latinx. How would you say you identify yourself as, and why?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question, just because they're very different. And so what I identify with is Chicano. Okay. And so, but the two I believe that got the best of both worlds, because my dad's family is from Mexico, and then my mom's mom is from Texas. Okay. And so I enjoyed my time in my earlier years going to Mexico, going back and forth, and I was embracing this culture from Mexico, Zacatecas, San Luis, Monterrey, but I lost it when my dad went away. And so I was engaged with the inner city, and so that was more of the Chicano culture. And so, but I love it, and I love that part of my life, part of my family. And so I say I got best of those both worlds, and I enjoy it, and I'm continuing to learn about the Chicano culture, but also the Mexicano culture too. And so it's great.
And I think the thing that makes us so unique is that you do have individuals from other countries like Mexico or Colombia or Uruguay, and most of the languages that's spoken there is Spanish. But then you have people that are from Latino descent, but they were born here. And so I think people don't realize sometimes the difference that can cause, and we've even seen it in school, like those that are from Mexico and those that are from here. Why do you think that is, or why do you think that it has created that culture here throughout the years?
Well, I think that it's just education. I think that, and this is great when you have a podcast, because people are wanting to know.
Sure.
They want to learn. Yeah. And so I've had plenty of opportunities where I'm able to educate those people, those different cultures, and say, hey, look, this is different. One of them is when people say, well, I thought you have both your mom's maiden name or your dad's maiden name, whatever. You have both of those names. And I say, yeah, the last name, they spell it out long. Right. But I said, Chicanos don't do that. Right. It's really just the last name.
Correct.
But that's just different cultures. Sure. And so I was able to just educate on that. And so it's just the education part that we got to do.
I love that because I think that's what we see a lot of is a lot of times we see problems because of lack of education. And so to be able to at least be open-minded about it speaks volumes of someone, correct?
Yeah. Oh, it sure does. And I think that's why I love teaching, is because it's not just teaching kids. I mean, we're teaching adults. We're just teaching communities. It's great. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about you were in the classroom. Now you have a different role, correct?
Yep.
So you were in the classroom. So you were working with students and parents and even peers. But you're also heavily involved in the community. What motivates you? What drives you to do the work that you do?
Yeah, so I really believe in just loving your neighbor as yourself. Okay. And so the best way that we can do that is just serving our neighbor. And I think that we look at the term community and we could think of big and broad, but really it's just serving your neighbor.
There you go.
And that can be just literally your next door neighbor.
There you go.
And how do we do that? Well, we first by learning cultures.
Yep.
We learn them and we learn how to love. And so I think that that's what just really drove me is to really just love people. And how do I do that? Well, just by serving them. Yeah. And so I just enjoy it. And I get to learn from people like you and just learn from people from HLN. And it's just like, man, this is great. Yeah. It's really fun.
Well, Adrian, I really want to thank you because you have been a young man, like I said, that I've known for many years. And I've seen you grow up and the work that you do in the community. And so, man, it really is something special to see you involved, but I know that there's still so much more to come from you. And so thank you. I also know that you're a fairly new dad, and you have a wife at home. And so it takes a huge support system to do the work that you do. And so kudos to mom and baby out there listening as well. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, Hector, for having me.
Our next guest is a very special lady, Dr. Baggerly-Hinojosa. Dr. Hinojosa, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I know that, you are also part of the Hispanic Leaders Network board of directors. And people might not know this about you, but your roots are in Waco.
Yes.
And even though you've moved away for your business and for work, but I know you have said over and over that you're slowly but surely making your way back to Waco.
Yes.
And so you remember Waco, how different it looks now to what it used to. But I want to ask you more specifically about the Hispanic community here in Waco in Central Texas. What do you think the biggest changes that we have seen with our community have been?
Well, first of all, Hector, thank you. And it's so good to be back home. For me, I do have this historical perspective of Waco, and I realize that the Hispanic community has just grown in huge numbers. In fact, the latest census says 33.3% of Wacoans are Hispanic. So for me, I have been able to spend some of my professional career on the border, Texas-Mexico border. I think I've gained some skills and some perspective that allow me to come back and contribute in big ways to the Hispanic population here in Waco, which is a growing, vibrant population.
Yes, ma'am. And even, so we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month right now. And so you will see the celebrations, the kickoffs, et cetera, things like that. But one of the important things that you will see, especially this year, is a drive to send people to the voting booth. Okay. And I know HLN is a nonpartisan, but even outside of voting, what's the importance of Hispanics, Latinos sticking together for a specific cause. What do you think the power in that is?
Well, I think the power is definitely there in coming together, because even though we've seen tremendous growth in activity around the Hispanic community in Waco, access to different services, all that has expanded, but the reality is there are still barriers.
Correct.
There are strong barriers that keep our segments of our community from fully thriving. And so the power of uniting as any group is so that we can share perspective, we can share voice, but there is a lot of power in the vote, and we know that. And you're right, HLN is a nonpartisan organization, but we fully support people engaging in what is their right, and their right to have their voice heard.
And I think, you said it earlier, one of the biggest obstacles that I believe Hispanics or Latinos, not only here in Waco, but just in our country have, are sometimes those barriers that either have been placed there before us or we have placed for ourselves.
Yes.
Speak a little bit into that. Like, how do you foresee us getting those barriers down so we can have full access to whatever it is that we want?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a matter of everybody listening, listening and paying attention. What are the barriers? What's the root cause of people not coming out to vote or coming to attend certain functions? I think in our history of research, we know language is a huge barrier. Correct. Just understanding where to go and what to do. I think not only is language a barrier, though, but even access. Do people know where to go? Do they even find that information?
Or the help that they need.
That's exactly correct. And then the third piece for me is, do they feel like they belong? Right. I think we see that a lot in our Hispanic communities all over the state of Texas. They don't always turn out in good numbers because they just don't, they're not sure if that's the place they belong.
And I'm sure, like we even saw with the census in 2020. There wasn't, first of all, we had the pandemic, so I know that played a huge role in getting an accurate count. But also I think just the fear of, because maybe some of the Hispanic families here maybe not be here legally, and just giving that information out, there's this fear about, the unknown. And that is a real thing that our people struggle with, so they feel like they don't belong, like you said, because of that fear.
Yeah. Trust is built on relationships. And so in order for us to build trust in any segment of our community, we have to build strong relationships. And until we have organizations like the Hispanic Leadership Network, whose prime function, I think, is to be that conduit to build relationships. Without that, we don't have trust. And so when we start building relationships, building trust, then we will see people feeling more comfortable, feeling like this place is their place. But we do have to address the language issue. It's still an issue for many communities, and it's a rather simple issue to fix.
Right. And we think, oh my goodness, it's going to cost so much money to translate documents or translate services. But the truth of the matter is we're spending more money not doing those services up front than if we were to take care of them. And so I think when we get to that point as a community, or when an organization gets to that point, to realize that language justice or that those language barriers do exist, then I believe that we will still keep having the same issue of having that distrust with our community. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think it is a mindset. And I think for many people, a language other than English is a deficit. And the reality is it's actually not a deficit, it's a benefit. And if someone can have two languages, that's even more of a benefit. My suegra would always say, la que sabe dos idiomas vale por dos personas, right? So that's, but it is our mindset, right? And we've got to help our community understand that their language is beautiful, that it's valuable, and it certainly belongs in Waco, Texas.
Well, Dr. Hinojosa, thank you for joining HLN and the work that you're doing already here in Waco. We are so excited to have you in Waco. And so we do appreciate you just being such an advocate for the Hispanic culture and community as a whole. So thank you
so much. Thank you, Hector.
So now in the studio, we have Dr. Anthony Luevanos, which is, I think it's a privilege and honor to interview Dr. Luevanos. I've known him since our college years. I know a long time ago, right? But we won't show our age. one of my fraternity brothers, and so near and dear to my heart. Dr. Luevanos, let me ask you something. You know, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month right now. What do you think makes the Hispanic culture and or the Spanish language so unique?
That's a really good question. And, you know, looking back on my upbringing, interactions with family, you know, other Spanish-speaking cultures, what makes the Spanish culture, what makes Hispanic culture unique is that we have a collectivist mentality. The collectivism around, you know, raising a community, raising children, investing in each other, shared responsibility, you know, all of those things kind of go into what it means to be Hispanic. It's very stark, or very, start over. It's very different from what we experience with American individualism. And so, again, the difference there being that in Hispanic culture, we have much more of a collectivist approach. And
which is a lot of people call that familia.
Exactly. And it's great because a lot of what we have in terms of our support system and our networks of support rely greatly on family. Right. And so when we look to our family, when we're experiencing those hardships in life, and, you know, life can get pretty hard sometimes, we rely on family to get us through, to tell the chistes, to tell the jokes, you know, because people have been there, they've roughed it, they've had a tough go of it, and sometimes los cuentos, las historias, those are what keep us grounded and keep us open to that familial or to that family culture, because you don't want to go through life alone.
There you go.
And it's great to go through life in community.
And I think, you know, when you go through life alone, it's a lot easier to give up than if you have a great support system, whether it's your familia or whomever else, to be there, to like being your cheerleader, to cheering you on and really pushing you forward. But by the same token, when your friend is going through the rough time, then you're that cheerleader for them.
Exactly.
I mean, would you say that that's fair?
That is. And you know what? Who doesn't want a cheerleader?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, how many out there don't want another person cheering on their side to get through something, to get over the hump?
Correct.
You know, even if it's just a Wednesday, another Wednesday during the week, who doesn't want that cheerleader and that support system to get you through?
So I know you have been involved with HLN for a few years now.
Yes.
And so HLN is doing great work in our community, and I know that some of HLN's goals or ambitions are to really get involved in the community and really show the Hispanic culture and the pride that comes with it. What are some of the things that HLN can do during Hispanic Heritage Month that can bring that awareness?
Well, I will say the current events that we have right now, we have a Mariachi Azteca that's coming about September the 10th. We are celebrating one of our cultural icons here in the local Waco community, Porfirio Sanchez. And, you know, that's one event of many that are going on. Here just recently we had an event that took place at Waco High School with Waco High School students. Kind of raising awareness and kind of connecting again, creating that network
of familia, mentorship with the students,
and some that mentorship with students. And it's just things like that when we're working systematically and strategically to address the needs of the community, to address the needs of individuals, and create that bond that is so common in Hispanic culture. I think HLN steps into that space.
Agreed.
And we raise the awareness, even in the small, you know, in the little that we can, we provide that connection in that community for people. And then when it's larger events, we communicate that aspect as well when we're working with other organizations. And hopefully we'll raise awareness across the state of Texas and the nation.
I love what you said, that, you know, HLN is strategically meeting the needs of individuals, you know, because it's one thing to meet a need collectively, as you mentioned. When you get down to the individual level, that brings just a whole different awareness. And so I love what you said there because I know HLN is working on that.
Yeah, and we got quite a few things coming up. On a monthly basis, we evaluate. We're hopefully going to create a calendar of events coming up, and we should be reaching into the community and just providing that hand, that support, and that just the familia environment or characteristic or attribute that we have as a Hispanic culture. And again, not focusing just on Hispanics, but the entire community, and bringing those individuals into the fold, into the family, into what we consider our network of support.
Well, Dr. Luevanos, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. And really thank you for the work that you're doing with HLN. I want you guys to know that the work that all of you do, because I know it's an entire team, it's making a huge impact in our community. So thank you.
We're so blessed to be able to step in there and do the work we do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Our next case is, apparently I can't speak now. It's the last one. I've lost all my words. We can add that to the bloopers reel. Our next guest is Joel Martinez. Joel is the director for the regional airport here in Waco, Texas, an employee of the city of Waco, and just has been so instrumental in the growth of our airport. And you guys are going through another growth right now, but also has recently joined the HLN board. And so wanted to talk to him a little bit about his upbringing and his family. So Joel, I know you're from a border town.
Yes.
And so I know that has shaped and formed you. But what would you say, even growing up in Del Rio, what would you say, what does being Hispanic mean to you?
And I told you earlier, I said, this is kind of a loaded question. And I felt like I was at a disadvantage because for me, it's different than for, I'm sure, the next person. Really, the way that I view being Hispanic, there's a source of community and a source of pride, family, extended beyond just blood relatives. And so being Hispanic, it has its cultural distinctions that really make it's an opportunity. So growing up in a border town, I didn't know any different. Right. 85% of the population there is Hispanic.
That's all you knew.
And so I was in that culture. Sure. Granted, when we were, going through school and things of that nature, really was, assimilation into the English language, all those things, we were really kind of drawn away from our language and all those types of things, just to make it easier to, be successful, I guess, at that time, to be successful in the workforce and in higher education, all of those things. But for us as a culture and as a family back home, it really meant family. It really meant gatherings. It meant Sunday lunches after church. It meant the fiestas on Friday night. Those types of things, just gatherings of again, and it wasn't just blood relatives. It was, it was extended to, to our community and even greater than beyond than that. But it also, my parents created a great sense of created a great sense of giving back to our community. And so whatever that looked like and meant for each and every one of us, because my siblings, they do a fantastic, phenomenal job of doing that. But each and every one of us kind of felt a call to serve our community in a different way. For me, it was, through education and through kind of promotion and encouraging those around us. But I have brothers that are attorneys. I have brothers that own businesses. And so really, being Hispanic in that community meant looking out for one another. Looking out for another Hispanic in need, another Hispanic with opportunity that may have been overlooked, just to kind of give them a fair opportunity, because unfortunately, that's one of the things that's kind of a challenge is there's not very many successful Hispanics that can mentor young Hispanics or upcoming Hispanics or Hispanics with, vision and opportunity there.
And I think that's one of the great opportunities that HLN offers is that it's people like yourselves, board members, volunteers, et cetera, things like that can speak into the lives of others to let them know that, hey, there is opportunity for you. There is a place at the table for you. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of why I really feel at home with this group and like-minded community that kind of we're looking for opportunities to give, encourage, and grow, Hispanics where we are.
Now, I know for those that don't know, you have a beautiful family at home. How are some of the ways that you share your culture, or maybe some traditions that you've passed on to your family, especially the Latino culture, the Hispanic culture?
So we really do a lot with, I guess, gathering and community. I think as a culture, as a community, Hispanics are naturally hospitable, and so we invite people into our home. We feed them, we cook for them, we do all those things. So we really try and encourage and kind of emulate for our children. Hey, you know what? The Hispanic culture. We're a welcoming culture, and we want for everybody to come in and feel welcome,
feel at home.
Yeah, feel at home, and I really hope that we're successful at that. We have, my kids have, non-blood relatives that are uncles and aunts and different things.
I love
just from being friends and opening our home to that. But another way for like my family is food. Yep. My wife and I, we're not culinary artists, but we try our hand at some traditional Hispanic foods. Tamales, menudo,
awesome.
Which sometimes
You're making me hungry, man.
And we just had lunch. And so so that's kind of really where it is. It's through community. That's how we kind of share our culture. And then HLN has afforded me an opportunity then to kind of broaden that exposure for my kids. One is to find other Hispanic leaders in our community that have been successful or that have succeeded in life. And so I've been able to kind of bring my children and my family around them to kind of help grow that awareness, and then also to give back. Awesome. That's the other thing too is, we can't, our young people, they can't be so short-sighted that they only look to be and long to be fed. Like I tell my children is, yes, you need to be supported and propped up and encouraged and mentored, but for a short while.
Right.
And then you need to turn around and find somebody behind you to do it for them. So that's kind of part of what I feel like, the Hispanic culture is to kind of help support, each other and one another and grow one another for sure.
And I love what you said because, even growing up, I had those individuals that helped me and supported me. But now I feel like it's my turn to turn around and help those and support those that are coming up behind me. And I know you do that same type of work. And it's feels good to be able to at least provide that type of opportunity for one other person, because some of us throughout life don't have that at all.
That's right.
And to be able to offer that to someone speaks volumes.
Oh, yes. And so, I just encourage, anyone that has an opportunity to reach down or to reach around really, and just support somebody, involve somebody in the community, and just to kind of encourage that growth and development, because we don't know, who the next, mayor will be, U.S. representative will be, doctor, lawyer.
Correct.
And we're talking about as young as, grade school.
Exactly.
And they just need to know that they can.
Yes.
And you'll be surprised if you just show them where the moon is, they're going to shoot for it.
I think most people, especially children, want to know that they're being seen and heard.
That's right. Absolutely.
And I think offering that type of support to them changes, in many cases, the trajectory of their life. Well, thank you. It was good speaking with you today. I know you're planning on many great things to come in the community, so I'm excited for what's to take place, not only with you, but your family as well.
All right. Thank you again.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.